Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Voices of Humanity show. And my name is Guy Dawson, and I have been a part of a series of interviews recently that we've been doing with a lot of circumstances related to police brutality, relationships with the police, and of course, with that being such a hot topic in America, if not all over the world right now, it has been really interesting and eye-opening. Some of these interviews that we've been doing with a variety of people over the last couple of months. And we have a man who recently was exonerated of charges that were very serious. His name is Jesus Carvajal, and he is here to talk about his story of having been accused of some pretty serious felonies and having been found to be completely innocent of the charges that were brought against him. Welcome to the Voices of Humanity show, Jesus.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And so, as I had mentioned to you before we went on the air, I did some research into your case. And generally, when we do these interviews, the very beginning is really about just having you share your story from your perspective. So, can you tell us what happened? How did you end up in custody?
On August 9th of 2018, roughly around 2:30 in the morning, I was woken up by my ex-girlfriend and my German Shepherd. She was pulling me from one side, and my German Shepherd was on top of me, barking at me, kind of like hopping on my legs. And as I woke up, I'm cleaning, my eyesight, and she's telling me that they're evacuating the neighborhood. And I'm like, what's going on? Next thing you know, I hear explosions in front of my home, multiple explosions, sirens, just total commotion. So the first thing I do, I believe in our Second Amendment. So I have a firearms, and I've had training through instructors here in the Valley. So the first thing I did was grab my firearm, an extra mag, and me and my one of my German shepherds. Well, before that, I told my ex, go into one of the restrooms, take the other dog because I have two German shepherds, and me and the bigger one, we ran out the our master bedroom. Once I get to the hallway, all of the windows, I'm sorry, that are facing the street were engulfed in the light. Couldn't see anything, and more explosions were happening in front of my home and flashes. It was just like something out of like a zombie movie, or one of those movies where there's like an apocalypse, something going on. It's crazy. So the first thing I do is I kind of put my sidearm kind of like away from the window, and I peek out, and I see two armored SWAT vehicles with shields and rifles. And I guess they saw that I peeked, so they got even louder, and I could hear in a muffled tone to a mic them screaming my name. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? At that point, my ex was running out to the hallway, screamed at her and told her, go back in the restroom, don't be out here. I run downstairs to grab my other dog, almost going through the door. I secured him. I put my firearm in a holster and put it somewhere visible just in case. And I opened my security gate, and I was in my underwear. I was in a mustard shirt and my boxers. Kind of did the spirit fingers through the gate so they wouldn't shoot me. And rifles, everything was pointed at me. And as I turned away, my back, and showed them that I didn't have anything, I walked towards them backwards. They zip tied me. And, at that point, my ex runs out. I'm thinking she's gonna get shot. She runs out with her hands up in the air, and I'm like, "Don't shoot her! Don't shoot her!" And I can hear my dog going through the fence. For shooting dogs in so many cases that haven't really been reported, like shooting dogs. So I'm thinking they're gonna kill my boy. So I'm telling them, please let her go and let her go secure my dog. And they actually were kind enough to do that. And then I told them where my firearm was. I told them where all my other stuff was at too, that it was all legal, they were mine. And I kept trying to ask questions. What's going on? What do you guys want with me? And no one was telling me anything. I got put into the back of a vehicle. I kept saying, what's going on? They kept telling me to shut the F up. And about 2 hours later, a detective shows up, E. Sharista. Sits next to me, and he says, I'm going to record this conversation. I'm like, perfect. I have nothing to hide. What's going on? I told him, I kept saying that I was uh, uh, dispatcher, a supervisor for Amazon. I kept telling them I run the morning operations. It's crucial. Like what I do, if I fail in the mornings, no one's gonna get their deliveries because I used to take care of about 40 routes, which was take care of the whole valley. And they didn't want to listen. So he asked me, "What did you do that Tuesday?" Because he got me. It was Thursday morning. I told him the same thing I do every morning. I have two German Shepherds. I love my dogs to death. That's all I have left now. And I told him they go to the restroom first. They eat, and then I get ready and race down to Amazon location. And he gave me a smirk and told me, "Well, I'm charging you with multiple counts of impersonating a police officer, multiple counts of sexual assault. I think it was a few of them. It was about 9 felonies that he was charging me with." I laughed and said, "That's impossible. You guys got the wrong guy. I need to go to work." And they said, "No, you're going to CCDC." I said, "Can I at least get some clothes?" He said, "No." I was, shamefully, walked into CCDC in my underwear while thousands, hundreds of people saw me, in my underwear. And I kept telling this detective and everyone, "Please go to Amazon. Please go to Amazon. There's videos there showing that what you guys are charging me for is wrong." I was at work, video, and I think after they took my DNA, because I laughed at that. I told them DNA is going to clear me. They use that against me in the media. And then once they did do the DNA test, both of these detectives, because the other one was Opal Deeds, they both went on vacation. They didn't follow any leads, nothing. They did a press release, and before I was even processed, I was paraded nationwide for about a week, even in Mexico, that I was a rapist. I was driving around, picking up, sex workers and sexually assaulting them. So, one of the first things I did was I called my job, and they already knew. They were like, "Dude, we saw you on TV. What's going on? Everyone's talking about you." And I'm like, "I'm an innocent man. Like, this is not me. I wouldn't do these things." I was fired on the spot. Um, one thing that hurt me as well, my ex, when I called her, she tells me, "Hey, I gotta ask you a question. What? Did you do these? Did you do this crime?" What? Like that was the first thing that came out of my mouth. I'm like, why? How can you say that about me when, my car was in? I didn't have a car at the time. The car was busted when all these crimes were committed. So she would take me to work. We would share one car, which was a truck, and it was either work to the store to get dog chews and home. That's what I did on a daily basis. And I told her that. She was like, "Yeah, that's right." I'm like, "Why would you say that on recorded line? These guys are, and they used some stuff that she said against me to make it seem like, to make it more compelling for the viewers. And it that was that was just the beginning of the nightmare. When it hit me more when I spoke to my mother, and she told me that my niece in Mexico saw me. That's when it's like I just got like like a dagger just went through my heart because I love my niece. I was like her guardian every time she came around. When that happened, that's when I was like, "This is real. This really happened." And I tried to. My brother immediately got involved, tried to get character letters, signature. Everyone, 98% of the people that I know in this town turned their back on me. People that I grew up with in LA, because I'm originally from LA. I've been out here since 2000. Uh,
Hey, Zeus, we lost your volume.
Give me a sec. I think that phone call just came up. Sorry, but people that I cared about, that I grew up with, a lot of them turn their back on me. They believe what the media said. I
Hey, Zeus,
really
could you?
wish I was
It's a
thinking.
little. Your volume's low. Is there any way you can raise it? Because it was good in a second ago. I just want to make sure we can hear you.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, that's a lot better right there.
Okay, because I can't hear Guy. Um, But yeah, it's going back to it. So when I ended up getting an attorney, and this attorney hired a detective by the name of Gavin Vest. He served 20 years as a detective sergeant for LVMPD, and and he immediately went to Amazon. He saw the videos that I was there. I gave him proof that my vehicle wasn't operational.
Hey,
And they
Jesus,
were saying that
just
the person they were looking for.
you can't hear me?
No,
Can you?
I could hear. I could just hear you. I could see you talking, but I can't hear you at all.
Okay. I don't know what happened, but I can still barely hear you. Is there? I just want to make sure that, yeah, just give it a go here.
Give me one sec.
Okay. Yeah, now your voice is starting to get stronger. Can you hear me?
Okay, I see. I see what happened. Give me one sec.
Okay.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you really clearly. Can you hear me now?
Oh, for some reason,
So you still can't hear me.
I still can't. Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah, but now your volume went down really low again.
Yeah, it's still for some reason. Give me one sec. Let me see if I can do something here.
Okay.
Sorry about that. I think the incoming call messed everything up. Okay, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me now?
Definitely. Now I can hear you.
All right. Yeah, you're loud and clear.
Okay, sorry about that. I got an incoming call and it automatically it screwed everything up.
Yeah, hey, that's technology for you, right? But
Exactly.
conquered.
Yes. So
All right. Do you remember where you were in your story?
yes. So I was at the point where I met the detective, and the detective went ahead and he went to Amazon. He saw everything that was going on, and he came back to me and told me, "Hey, you know, this is crazy. You know, like they said that the victims, the way it started was a victim in Arizona got in trouble, and she told the detectives there that she had information on vice cops that were sexually assaulting her friends out on the strip and everywhere around Las Vegas. So that's how the investigation started. Then they said that they skip traced a number that they were given to these detectives that led to my home, but it never did. It landed under my landlord's wife's name, never under mine. The number was never tied to my home, but they said it was through an insurance claim that was done under that address. Now we did multiple scans on that phone number, and it never landed under my former landlord's wife's name. And it only by mistake, by curiosity, the only software where this number pulled up under her name was the software that only the Metro has access to. They stated that the person that was committing these crimes was a like dark skin Latino mixed with Filipino, dark skin Latino mixed with Hawaiian or light African American. On the lineup, I'm the only one that matches that description. No one had a beard or mustache. The only one that did was he was light, really, really light. Um, the we started as we started moving forward, we started realizing that a lot of things didn't add up. The vehicles. They said that it was a Dodge Charger, either gray, silver, or black. One said it was dark blue. I had a Dodge Caliber, which is a hatchback. So in low light conditions, you cannot mistake that vehicle. Um, and I had proof that the vehicle was undrivable, and they stuck with us with it. So when I went to court, the DA had nothing on me. Um, they just they just pretty much lied to the judge, saying that I was a rapist, that I was a menace to society, and that put me in danger. They tried to say that Gavin Vest was manipulating witnesses, and luckily he was there, and he stood up and he had a private meeting with the judge, my former attorney, and a DA with evidence, because he was the only one doing both sides of the investigation. Metro just pretty much crossed their arms and said, "This is the guy. We don't care what you say. It's him." And after that, those 20 minutes that they had in that meeting, the judge came out with, uh, he had like a knot in his throat. He was upset. He told, and it's all recorded. I have the copies of that. He told the DA that Gavin was doing his job, that they needed to do theirs, and that he felt that I was probably innocent based on the information that Gavin Vest had at the time already. When the bail hearing started, the DA still kept saying horrific things about me. The judge stopped the DA and said he's been released on house arrest. He doesn't have to pay for anything. And that's when we realized that Gavin had some pretty good information showing that I was innocent. And and after that court date, I was in danger because people heard the charges. No one knew the charges in jail. I try to keep a really low profile because those charges will get you hurt in jail. Anything that has to deal with child molestation, rape, it's called a green light. Anyone in jail will attack you for that. And I was put in danger that night. Someone got wind of those charges, and I had to stay up all night because I feared that they were going to attack me. When I got released on house arrest, I was told not to go on social media, and I went on social media, and I saw uh, messages from people calling me Lee, which was a name that allegedly this person was using. Um, People that I cared for, just sharing those posts from the media, just killing my name and my family name, um, and it was awful. It really does something to you when you see that. And I immediately went into counseling because I kind of did a self assessment, and I was in a really bad state. Um, 2 months later, we got wind that there was information that was withheld from these detectives that proved from one of the victims, the main one, from one from Arizona, that she, on two different lineups, she said it wasn't me, and this was withheld. It was never brought up in court. Nothing. Even after uh, so many times, we pleaded the DA to give us their discovery, but they didn't have anything. Uh, this was October 19th. On October 20th was a Sunday, was when they got the person that's in jail right now. And then the following day was my follow-up court date. And they just dropped the case and walked away. They didn't say anything. They didn't clear my name. They didn't, no apologies. There was nothing given to me. And I was destroyed. They kept my vehicle after they searched it, and then they towed it, and they got sold. I had lost my job, and emotionally, physically, I was just in really bad state. From that point on, I said, no, this can't happen. This is wrong. Something needs to be done. And I started I ended up going public, um, because, no, actually, I'm sorry. I filed a motion. First thing I did was file a motion for wrongful prosecution against the DA. And because of them just, even though they didn't have anything on me, they wanted me to be that person. And we realized that the things that during our rescue were wrong. It just didn't make any sense, but we didn't know what it was. It just didn't make it. Just nothing added up, and there was no questions to the answers that we had. So I immediately proceeded for that because I owed $10,000 to my previous attorney. Steve Wolfson had a private meeting with my attorney twice, The second one was with Gavin Vesp. And keep in mind, these guys did an incredible job saving my life. Gavin Vesp's report was one of the best reports out there. It's super detailed, and it's the reason why I'm where I'm at right now, suing the city and the DA and Metro for what they did. But they after this meeting, before the meeting, they were like, Jesus is wrong. They couldn't sleep. They couldn't believe that the system was doing this to me. And after the meeting with Steve Wilson, all that demeanor changed. I couldn't get a hold of my former attorney when I called the private investigator. One of the first things he told me was, Jesus, he's like, be happy that you're a free man, but move on. Don't sue because you're going to hurt a lot of good police officers. That's when I realized that something was going on. Something, these guys were threatened. Something happened. When I had a meeting with them, with my ex, they told me that I wasn't going to win this case against the DA. That the DA had probable cause on arresting me, even though they themselves knew something. A lot of things didn't add up. From the vehicle, from we we've had you know victims say that this person was 5'7" and with a built body, and I was 6'2", and at the time I was 290 pounds. It's a big difference in size. So there's just so many different things that just didn't add up, and they said that in order for me to be able to seal my record, because I wanted to get back in work, I wanted to get back on my feet as soon as possible with these charges. No one will hire you, and they said that in order for me to be able to seal my record, I had to drop these charges. And I said, well, if I don't drop these charges, what would happen? If I win, will they still allow me to seal my record? He said, I don't know. So out of desperation, I said, you know what, I'm gonna have to take this deal. I mean, that's all I got. I need to get back to work. I can't sit on this. And I filed. I went back and I actually I took the case. I called it off. And tried going on unemployment to try to cover the attorney fees. And even though I was in constant communication with the owner of my company through through the time that I was on house arrest, and he knew I was innocent, he still denied my unemployment and used the articles that were out there at the time showing that I was this rapist. I that was another just dramatic experience, seeing that people knowing that you're still an innocent man would use this stuff that's out there to get what they want. And time passed, and that's how I met Oja. I met Nisa. I'm sorry, through the ACLU. I went to the Capitol. That's when we were. It was for Lobby Day last year, and I met Leslie from Mass Liberation, and that's how I got into trying to push for change and help push these bills, because no one really knows stories like mine, or stories like when people get murdered by police wrongfully. They get shoved under the rug. No one really knows about this. It's a brief, hearing, and they say that this person was evil, and it was, the cop did the right thing, and that's it. And all the truth never comes out. Like in my case, it took me probably 6 months after to try to fight to get my file. They don't want to give me my file, because there were still so many things that I didn't know about my case. I knew that I heard the rumors. I heard that there was an FBI investigation for the same crimes, but I didn't have any proof. Once I got my file that was redacted, it looked like a black ops mission, and I started speaking to a lot of local journalists. I found out that it's about 3 months before Judge Tobias came forward and went publicly and spoke about, that there was a vice cops that were working with pimps and setting up shops and going after the competition, and I was like, wait, so this happened. So did they use me as a pawn or as a decoy to divert this? And we didn't know. So that was kind of like one of the things that we were looking at. But then as we kept finding out more clues and looking at more stuff, we realized that the victim statements were altered to push for the arrest warrant. Two of the victims that allegedly was reported that they picked me at 100% didn't never pick me at 100%. These statements were changed during the arrest warrant. They used pictures of me in my paintball gear. I used to play professional paintball, and they said that I had, uh, you know, you know, paraphernalia that could be used to disguise myself as a police officer, and they never mentioned that it had the watermarks of a paintball photographer on these pictures. A lot of these pictures, I was in full face covering, where you couldn't even see my eyes, and there was just so many lies, so many things that that were just unbelievable. It's like a movie, and then we found out through this whole process of because no one wanted to help me at all. I went through so many different attorneys, and once they knew it was an FBI investigation in regards to these same charges, so they didn't even want to touch it. But everyone was just let me go. All right, as soon as they heard about it, they would let me go. So once we uncover more things, we realize that a lot of these detectives that were involved in this FBI investigation that Judge Tobias spoke about were also involved in my case. Uh, I, uh, there was a detective, Jay Gaddis, that actually blew the whistle on this judge when she was letting Metro know that there was vice cops doing this. She was involved in my case. She was actually at my home when my home got raided and interviewed my ex. She interviewed some of the victims that actually their statements were altered. And a lot of these things, when I go to the media as I was uncovering all these things, no one wanted to listen. No one wanted to touch it because it's really bad. I mean, it's how can you have people that are supposed to protect and serve us do these sort of things, hurting lives, to protect themselves on off their criminal activities, and all of this stuff goes all the way to the top because Steve Wolfson played a big role in this. Lombardo knows exactly what's going on. I mean, some of these guys I think was from the unit he created himself, and 2 years later, after everything, I lost my home. Right now, I'm in a one bedroom apartment where I rent a living room space with my two dogs. I mean, we have no room here, no privacy. We get bit by bugs. I haven't been able to get a better job. And nothing's being done. I'm glad that we got this case going now against them, but the big picture is that it took them a few hours to days to destroy my life, to destroy my record. But now I have how many years to come to get true justice? That's when we know we have a broken system because it shouldn't take years for me to get the justice that I need when we have the proof that these officers lied. And the crazy thing about it is that these officers are the same ones that are now conducting the investigation in the case against the person that just got incarcerated after I was cleared. And from my understanding, that attorney is saying that that is a botched case, that he's being framed himself. So when are we going to have the DOJ come in here and the local FBI? I don't know what they're doing. I've heard through Tobias's interviews that some of the FBI agents know what's going on and they're turning the cheek away. When are we going to really get these agencies from the outside to come into this town and clean house? Because it's wrong. I mean, it shouldn't have to be this way. So many people are being killed wrongfully. You have people being incarcerated wrongfully. Um, you know, there, and this town doesn't know that because the media hides it. There is, and it's going to be proven. There are policies in place and procedures to cover up a lot of the misconduct that these officers are doing. I mean, look at George Gomez, for example. That's one that hit me the hardest because I carry, and we're in a town where there's cameras everywhere. You have a situation that happened in front of a courthouse where there's a jail as well, where there is a big section of that town, that area that has cameras because of those two prime, buildings. And you're trying to tell me there's no videos of what happened, but there's videos of him everywhere. Those are the things that we really have to look at. it's a sad situation. I'm still finding things out about my case. I found out 2 days ago that another, I think it was the same detective that cussed me out that was in a vehicle with me, lied on another case. You know, there's cases that we're working on right now to prove that there's practices are in place where there's DA that are sleeping with officers are involved in the same case that they're handling. There's a lot of foul play going on in this town, and it's unacceptable. I think it's time for the people of Las Vegas to wake up and realize that you know there's a lot of bad things going on in this town. And don't get me wrong, there is good cops out there, but the thing is that there's cops who are not they don't have the power to do anything about it. Because look at Gavin Vest, he was called a traitor. Even after the judge said it was okay for him to continue my investigation, they tried to put him in jail behind doors. Everyone turned their back on him too. That's why now he's not even speaking to anyone. He has never picked up the phone after that meeting with Wilson to anyone. So how can we change this lifestyle, you could say, within these departments to where we go back to having peace officers versus corrupt cops, and cops that are trained to kill first and ask questions later, or when do we go back to being innocent to proving guilty? Because that's not the case anymore. I was guilty from the beginning. I wasn't given a chance. If it wasn't for um, this gentleman being arrested, I probably would have been still in jail fighting off of nothing that incriminated me. There was nothing that tied me to these crimes whatsoever. And in reality, the only thing that they had was that I'm a dark skinned Latino that had a beard and mustache, and I own firearms, and that's it. And it's like a movie. Right now I'm kind of lost the words.
Hmm.
But it's sad. Right now I'm glad I haven't broken down. Normally, when I speak a lot about what happened, I kind of get numb to it. But sometimes when I don't speak about what happened to me and I start speaking again, I do get emotional because I have suffered a lot. It, you know, it, I wouldn't wish anyone to go through what I'm going through right now. You know, just waking up and seeing where I live at right now, it destroys me almost every day. Seeing that my dogs are not running like they used to, seeing that I don't have my home that we worked hard for to have. I everything that I worked hard for 2 years ago is gone. And I worked really hard for it. I don't have an education. I didn't go to college. Everything that I did, I had to learn on all the jobs that I've had. And I was at a point where I feel comfortable to move on to the next phase, to have kids, uh, probably even get married, and all that's gone. It's like where do you go from here? That's some a lot of things. A lot of times I ask myself that question. Yes, I'm fighting, I'm pushing forward, but what's next? Like I don't know. Like it's kind of like I'm living a day by day struggle, not knowing, if I'm gonna ever be able to find peace, because my system is not built to give me that justice that I need as now, because I need it like right now. you know.
Hmm.
And but yeah, I it's wrong. It really is.
Jesus, there are a lot of people out there who who judge other people, not realizing that a situation like this could happen to any of us at any time, and that a person's life could be turned completely upside down. You, as you mentioned, you were working hard, you were doing the things that you thought a good citizen should do, taking care of things in your life, and then all of a sudden, randomly, because of circumstances completely beyond your control, you were wrongly accused of something, and then you have to go through all the drama attached to that. Basically, it's like you said, whatever happened to the phrase innocent until proven guilty? Because to me, these circumstances are the complete opposite, as you had mentioned before. You were basically proven guilty before you ever even had the chance to prove your innocence. So I wanted to ask you, at what point did you start working with Forced Trajectory Project? And Oja, I want you to jump in here in a minute, to start to to work on this and to seek justice for your situation?
So once I started realizing the cover up, because even when I was exonerated, they didn't clear my name. I was swept under the rug, and it hurt me waking up every morning and Googling my name and seeing those mugshots and just, pretty much calling me a rapist, calling people that I cared for and them telling me, being rude to me, like, when did you get out? Because there was nothing nationally that cleared my name. And after that, I said, enough is enough. I need to fight back. I need to find ways. And I started, and it happened. It was lobby day. Lobby day was coming up. So I started making phone calls. And next thing you know, the ACLU put me in a bus up to go to the Capitol, and which I made a speech in front of the legislature building. And that's where I met Nisa. And later on, I met Oja. And like I said, I met Leslie from Mass Liberation. A lot of people that are victims too, to everything. My eyes were my eyes were really open at all the people that I've met that've been hurt in this town by police. It's crazy how many people and their stories. Some of the stories make mine look like child's play, and it's crazy because I wouldn't want anyone to go through what I'm going through. So, and ever since then, they've been kind to me. They've helped me out through a lot of the things that I'm going through that helped me fight. They've helped me fight. Because of them, I was able to testify for AB 267, which was a bill that was passed that is for people that were wrongfully prosecuted or wrongfully convicted to be able to get monetary compensation and get their records expunged. It got passed, but it doesn't help me because I was never convicted. But at least it's there to help anyone in the future. That's one of the battles that I'm currently fighting now, is getting my record expunged. And then from there, we just been on the front line. Just helping other families that are joining us and just pushing for change. We need to the people need to take our towns back. And what I mean by that is because the politicians are not doing anything about it. They're being controlled by the police union, and the police are given, this unlimited amount of power that they're abusing, and there's no transparency. There's nothing to have them held accountable for their actions, and this is just going to continue for that same reason.
And Oja, I know that people come to you in a lot of different. They're involved in things that are unique, and I would imagine, of course, with a situation like this, like I had mentioned before, the interviews that we have been doing so far on this platform, Voices of Humanity, have been the families of people who've passed away. How often do people come to you like Jesus, where they've been wrongly imprisoned, wrongly accused? How often does this happen?
This makes up about, I would say, close to 20% of the group. Because we have folks who are, for instance, there's a member of our group who was pulled out of her car and held on scorching hot concrete during the summertime in Las Vegas and received third-degree burns, for example. We have a gentleman in our group who was shot numerous times, who was law enforcement at the time, who survived as well. So it makes up, a large portion of the population that's feeling the brunt of a lot of the things we're trying to end. For folks that lose their lives are feeling the same things, except now they're here to be present in the reconciliation of the case and the seeking of justice and the healing, to join other family members who have then lost their loved ones. But really, the same things affect that. So when we talk about National Program 1033, where the military tactics and equipment is trickled down to local police all around the nation, that's what we're seeing in these no-knock raids. Somewhere between 20,000 and 40,000 police raids take place a year in the United States. And we've lost a lot of people to these raids, to these flash grenades and this military technology, which is passed to local police because the national budget is so high that there is surplus equipment after it's spent, and more machine equipment is bought and technology. It has to be trickled down through this program, which is a Clinton era program that is still going on today. So that's a national thing. But when we talk about what kind of collective action is happening between family members, here in Las Vegas, there's around 30 members to this group, Families United for Justice Las Vegas, which Force Trajectory Project supports, no doubt, and they've been organizing very strongly to put together these 40 demands, as they've been mentioned before. So here you have a bunch of different circumstances in Jesus's case that pertain and have informed, along with other survivors and the family members of those who have lost, family members of those who have been lost in police murder cases. And so we can look at the need for independent investigation, right? We have this repetitive cycle of the so-called authorities being celebrated because they're investigating themselves. Or even when we go to the DA and a family will ask for example, a family will ask for the investigation to be independent, they ensure that they're going to conduct the investigation. There's no conversation about an independent investigation. So demand number one around having an independent investigation is especially relevant. Number three, when you look at the need for a liaison in the demands to handle all of these different, moving parts that Jesus is talking about, as this man's life was falling apart due to this identity, we can either call it a framing straight away, or we can say it was a mistaken identity. Either way, this man's life was falling apart as a result of misconduct, not only police misconduct, but prosecutorial misconduct inside of the courts by the DA's office. So then we can move on to the demand of asking Wolfson to step down, because we're showing that he's not only not prosecuting police officers who murder people, but he's not cleaning up situations like this where there may have been a whole corruption thing attached to the framing of an individual or the mistaken identity of an individual. Again, whatever you want to say at this point. But the fact remains that the work wasn't done in the court by the DA. The proper avenues to justice were not pursued. And then we have to sue. Jesus speaks about how he's now having to sue for different things and how things have been redacted. He talks about how he was treated, the smirks, the humiliation, the defamation, the same defamation we see when someone's murdered. Immediately after, they go and try to pick things and defame somebody and humiliate that person as that person's already gone. And Jesus has experienced that and is still around to talk about it. So these things are very connected to us, and these folks stand together to try to affect that change.
Yeah, to add to that, because even as of last Monday, there was still LVMPD Twitter post with my mugshot, and they're still calling me a rapist as of last Monday. So I mean, it's horrible, and we used that in our case, and they probably took it down, but they probably didn't. I'm probably going to check after this, but they don't do anything afterwards. How is it that 2 years later I'm still able to go into their Twitter account and see my mugshot, and they're calling me a rapist still, and asking people to call in if they have any information about me? And it's like, why would you guys still be doing this? Like, it's like they're adding more salt to my wounds. It's unacceptable.
And you're just working on trying to put the pieces of your life together, and then at the same time, you are working towards recovering the lost life. Because basically, from between the story I've heard from you today and the research that I did, I mean, you literally lost 2 years of your life, and you did absolutely nothing to cause that to happen.
Well, I lost more than that, because 2 years ago, the way I was 2 years ago was years of work. I moved into this town with a rucksack, broke, no vehicle, nothing. I had things that I have brought to this town, negativity from LA that I had to go and take care of. Came back into this town and started from the bottom, literally from the bottom, going from one job to the other, having to deal with, with my record, because I had a record coming from LA,
I had to deal with a lot of things, to change my life around. It was an uphill battle. There was a lot of sweat and blood that was shed for me to be the person that I was 2 years ago, you know, and they took it away. So it's more than just 2 years. They took my life away, the life that I worked hard to obtain. Like I felt, I was told that I was going to die at the age of 18 by my teachers in school. I did some mistakes growing up. We all do. Some do mistake more mistakes than others, but I did some mistakes. I snapped out of it and said, I'm going to leave LA. I'm going to move to Las Vegas and live a new life. My mother was already living here, and it was a process. But, I even thought about speaking to young kids in juvenile hall to show them that you can get out the hood and you can become someone, because I'm living proof of that. All of that was taken away, all of it. So it was just not just 2 years. It's like I sometimes feel like they killed me, but I'm still alive, because that's what they did. They took everything from me, and even now I'm still having to fight the emotional battles, the mental battles that they left me with. And there hasn't been any help by them at all when they should have. And so it's a lot more. The sad thing about it is, even when I try to follow this case, a lot of people told me, well, you didn't do a lot of time. You didn't lose that much because you didn't have that much. Like, what do you mean I didn't have that much? What I had was priceless because I built it myself. It wasn't given to me. So yeah, it's don't get me wrong. These 2 years have been tough because, like I said, look at my living conditions, my job. It's not the same one. I'm alone. I don't have you know friends in town that say, hey, let's go out and go shoot, or let's go over here or go over there. 99.5, no, 98.8% of the time I'm by myself. It's just me and my dogs, and it's work and the store. I don't have a social life anymore because, people tell me you should go out and enjoy yourself or meet people. And in the back of my head, I don't want to meet people because they're probably going to know who I am because they saw me on TV for a week. Or what if, I start dating again and someone decides from that person's family to research me and they see my mugshot on in Google, and there's still bad articles out there that are calling me a rapist. So there's a lot of things that that are tough. Even as an innocent man, it's like that's why I said earlier, where do I go from here? How do it's hard to restart when you're really not really restarting. It's a nightmare, you know.
Well, it's really interesting to see how quickly traditional media condemns people, but how they are not so quick to write retraction articles that support the person who they wrongly accused. And so I know that I did see the article in the journal, and that's a wonderful thing because sometimes you never even see that in cases like this. But in terms of the strength that you're getting by being a part of the Forced Trajectory Project and Families United, how is that helping you as you trudge towards seeking some kind of justice here, even though there's really no way that you will ever get complete justice for what happened to you?
It's sad to say and I hope it doesn't come out wrong, but it feels good to be around people that know what I'm going through. I wish it wouldn't have to be that way, but being around people that have suffered like me, that understand, it kind of gives you it gives you hope. I guess you could say that when you see that they're still fighting forward, and a lot of these families have lost their sons, their wife, their husbands, cousins. They lost people in general. Just they lost someone, and they're still fighting. So a lot of that energy has been transferred to me, and that's why I continue anytime I can to try to push for something and help them out, because they're alone themselves. We're all alone in this. When you see us speaking, immediately we're cop haters, and people immediately don't want to talk to us. And that's not the case. I used to hang around with a lot of people that were LEOs here, military, former military, medics, people that were in the private sector, for executive protection, and you're outcasted, and that's what's happening to me. And there's families are being outcasted as well. No one wants to deal with them. So having people that you can go to and feel like you're loved, sadly, it has to be in these circumstances, but it's a good feeling. It's helped me get by through the times that I've actually broken down really bad, and I couldn't call someone that was there that doesn't know, because in reality, I have people that stand by me, but they don't know what I'm going through. They won't understand it. What these families do. So we have a big a network of understanding amongst each other, and we're all we have.
And Oja, of course, there are many, many stories very similar to this, and we're just basically covering one of them a week on this particular show. But when there are other people out there who have suffered these types of injustices, as Jesus has suffered, and what is some of the advice that you give to people like that? Because one of the things that I've learned through doing these interviews is there is a large group of people who are completely silent about very similar situations to what Jesus has gone through. So how do you get a person in the right frame of mind to of empowerment that would make them want to come and be a part of what Force Trajectory Project and Families United for Justice is all about? You're muted, by the way.
I'm a little delayed here, so I'm catching you a little delayed. Forgive me. I can't hear you over my own system. I'm hearing you from the next room. So you're almost done.
Good old technology, huh?
Technical. Right. So basically, from what I'm understanding your question to be, the advice I would have for people who are going through injustice as a result of police misconduct, right, would be to say that you're not alone, would say that there are others out there with you, to say that the community is working together to try to affect justice, to try to change things, and that there is a united platform, right? There are these 40 demands. Folks find intentional community within this group that we're supporting, Families United for Justice Las Vegas, as Force Trajectory Project is helping these family members and survivors amplify stories, work on their cases in terms of what we can do from a grassroots media advocacy level. Very similar to what you're doing, Guy. So basically, what I would tell these family members is to take this as an example, to take, the other episodes that you've been producing as an example, to take all of the forums that are now emerging around the injustices that are undeniable in our society, that everybody has a part in changing, and to realize that, you're not by yourself. There is support, and that you can be a part of the collective solutions as you fight. Because it is a situation of deep sorrow and confusion, and interruption of regular life, as one could imagine, of deep trauma, and so it is something that is of deep suffering. But when you're in these spaces where folks are creating this intentional community of support for each other, it's nothing but empowering to those of us who are actually trying to support that to happen. So, and that's really for the wider community to understand that, although it may seem like this type of work is like, will bog you down because of the full frontal exposure of the injustice of the system. The fact is that even in the face of that, the beautiful thing is that these folks come together. They're optimistic. They help you be optimistic. They help us be optimistic. And after all, that's helping the whole entire society. So, it's amazing work, and it's amazing and an honor to be able to do this work and to be involved with these folks to try to make these landmark cases happen where we can really see that change things for the future.
It's a good point that you make about being energized by the cause. And because of how deeply you feel about every aspect of this, that it gives you the tenacity and the strength to be here for people, because you know that more of these people are coming, and they your commitment to this rubs off on them. And I don't know, maybe you and Nisa, maybe you do realize this, but that's something that I've kind of gotten from the conversations that we've had is, and maybe you can mute yourself because I'm hearing myself in the background. There you go. Okay. But it, yes, your commitment to the mission, what I'm really saying is it's just, it's complete and it's commendable. And again, thank you, Jesus. I appreciate you for taking the time to come on to tell your story, and in terms of moving on with your life, with the challenges that you are facing, that you've talked about today, and in recreating your life. You're a young man, and I feel that you're moving in the right direction. It's really just a matter of embracing these partnerships that you talked about that seem to be bringing you strength, and to just keep fighting the good fight. But yes, I have nothing but empathy for your story, and I'm so glad to see that you didn't end up going away to prison for a lot of years behind that, and that justice was served to the extent that you didn't have to go away to prison. Although more justice needs to be served, and I commend you in your as you continue to work towards seeking whatever form of justice you're going to be able to get from all of this. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with someone out there who may be like you, who has a story very similar to yours right now, but maybe they're afraid to come forward? What would you say to a person like that?
I would let that person know to not give up on themselves, because by you turning away and walking away from what was done to you, you're giving it up on yourself. You know, the pain, the suffering, the loneliness, the sense of betrayal, all of that stuff, you know, use that as power to fight forward and keep pushing forward. And if you haven't gotten any help, seek help, get a counselor, learn ways to cope with all that negativity you're going to have, or you're probably currently experiencing, because it's not going to go away. You just have to learn how to deal with it, and how to cope with it. Because if you don't, then you're going to fall in a really bad, dark path. And you may end up in jail for these dark paths that you're going to lead to. So all I can say is, it's not easy. Don't get me wrong. I get tailed sometimes. There's a reason why I changed my lifestyle. I have cameras everywhere. I carry a body camera. I watch everywhere that I go. But we live in a country that we can fight. The country is still free. In other countries, we don't have the privileges that we have to be able to fight injustice. So take advantage of that, because if we don't unite and push forward for change, there's going to be thousands of us just like us that can continue to suffer. And if they don't move forward and say anything about it, then it's going to continue to happen. And it's unacceptable. I love this country. This is the only country that I know. I've been to other countries because I'm part Cuban and Mexican. I see the injustice there. And we have so much work that we can do here to make it even better. And because we're silencing ourselves, it's not going to happen. So all I could say is just don't give up on yourself. And when you're giving up on yourself, you're also giving up on people like myself. Because if we unite, we can do a lot more things than just having several of us pushing all the weight for others, you could say.
Well, thank you, Jesus, again for coming on and inspiring all of us with your story of bravery and overcoming a lot. And as always, Oja, Force Trajectory Project, we greatly appreciate the partnership and the ability to be able to share these stories. And these are stories, unlike a lot of the stories that you may hear, related to some of these people who we've had on this show. And that is the humanity of it all. It's about the voices of the human beings behind the stories, and that there's always two sides to a story, right? They always tell us that. One of the things that they tell you when you're a kid is that or when you're little, I know it was something that was told to me, always understand that there are two sides to every story. And this platform is designed to present that from the perspective of humanity. And so, again, we appreciate all of you tuning in to prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media, the Voices of Humanity show. Looking forward, although we're not looking forward to the content that we have to present on this platform, we are looking forward to allowing people who have been subjected to injustice having their say on this platform. And so stay tuned for more announcements about future broadcasts here on the Voices of Humanity show at prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. Take care of yourselves and be safe.